Hello, everyone. Here they come. You are in the correct location.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to let people circulate in, and then we'll get this conversation started. For those of you who are interested in knowing, I was trying to find the song Zoom, Zoom, Zoom to play during this awkward silence time. Unable to get it together. Katie, if you'd like to sing it, please feel free.
I mean, I do know every word, but I don't want to make everyone listen to my singing voice.
Thanks for joining, everyone. We're just letting people come into the conversation, and then we'll get started here in 1 to 2 minutes. Thanks for joining, everyone. We're just waiting on people to come in, and we'll get started. For those of you who have been on since the beginning, thank you for listening to me say this every 15 seconds. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm going to give it 1 more minute because we're seeing the numbers continue to spike. So exciting. All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. We just hit 200 of you, so that's my sign that it's time to go. No pressure on the panel. Sorry for sharing. Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ella Sconey. I'm Vice President of Talent Management here at Centro. I've been around about 8 years, and I'm really excited to bring you our latest Centro conversation this month, featuring some of our very own Centrons and community group leaders, as well as supported and partnering with Jess Pettit, who is our consultant on all things DEI there in the picture. For housekeeping, I recommend clicking gallery view on Zoom for those of you who are new to it. Some of you might be in speaker view. Personal preference, up to you, but there is an option to see gallery view where you can see all 6 boxes in one screen. Otherwise, in speaker view, the biggest picture will be the person who is speaking. So a little introduction before we dig into the conversation. Centro Conversations, for those of you who are new to Centro, this is our 4th, I believe. They have been going on monthly for the last 4 months, as we as a company have just had more discussion and intention around talking about the things that matter, focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and sharing with each other what's going on, and really starting to thread together and get curriculum around those core factors that are needed: empathy, compassion, and understanding DEI in the workplace. So Centro Conversations was started in the fall and has been going monthly. And originally we did have this one scheduled to be compassion in the community, and we decided to postpone that and focus on what we know is on everyone's mind in this interesting time of the world, which is COVID, the new normal of working, the virtual workplace. Some of you are working in ways that you might not have before. And so in starting this, informing this conversation, we decided to feature some of our own Centrons who are all leaders or co-leaders of community groups. If you are not familiar with community groups, they are our employee-led, employee-organized groups groups focused on a community. So Katie Fertizzi with us co-leads the Women in Tech community group. Christine Kim co-leads Nom Nom and Reframe, which is focused on food, and Reframe on mental well-being and mental health. Ryan Nugent is a co-leader of Centro Out, and Carolyn Roth is a co-leader of CHAMPS, which stands for Centro has amazing parents. I'm trying to make it the CHAMPS work, but Centro has amazing parents. It's our parents group, which has definitely seen an uptick in activity as kids have joined us in our homes. So without further ado, today's conversation, just to set expectations, is just really talking about these 4 people. I'll probably insert some personal facts as well, what we're up to, how we're navigating the new norm, how we're finding, what struggles we're finding, what positives we're finding. And the goal is really just for you all to have a place to listen and understand how, other Centrons might be feeling, make sure we have empathy for all situations in the household at the moment. And hopefully to have a takeaway of how you can either, tweak what you're currently doing, or how you can reflect on your current status as well. So this is a new platform, virtual, super weird not being able to hear all of you on the phone. My assumption is there's just like people clapping for us, so I'm gonna go with that. Yay! And so I'm going to kick it off to Katie to start introductions, and we'll go from there. Katie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. It's super exciting. Wish we could see all of your faces. As Ellis mentioned, my name is Katie Fertizzi. I am a manager of one of the talent partner teams here at Centro. I just celebrated my first Centroversary, so I've been here a year, which is great. I work in our Chicago office. I was able to kind of help support Bridget Lane as she was kicking off Women in Tech, so it's been exciting to see progress on that. And I live alone, so I'll be sharing that perspective today. I don't have any pets, but I have a lot of plants, well, a few plants, so that's been great.
Awesome. I'm Carolyn Roth. I'm a client lead out of the New York City office, but I'm on the Boston team and I live in Connecticut. I have been at Centro for a little over 5 years, and as Ellis mentioned, I'm the co-moderator of the Parents Team channel called CHAMPS, and I co-moderate with Mallory Cheney out of the Dallas office. I'm living through coronavirus with my husband and our 2 small boys. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and my 11-year-old boxer named Brutus.
Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Nugent, and I'm a talent partner on the talent partner team. I am aligned with the revenue portion, so sales and services is kind of bread and butter, so I work with all of you. I've been at Centro collectively now for about 3.5 years. Actually left Centro, worked at a brief startup, and I came back. But when I was at Centro the first time, I was on the brand exchange. RIP brand exchange, but it was a great time. And we decided that, talent development was something that I was interested in. And so that's what brought me back to Centro. And I've been back now for over a year. Katie and I celebrated the same anniversary day, so very exciting. And I actually I was working from the Chicago headquarters, but I actually work remotely from Minneapolis. My husband is in the medical field, so we actually had to move for his position. So I've been working remotely for nine months now. And yeah, I love it. And like I said, married to him. We don't have any pets, but we have like 38 plants. So excited to, be speaking with you all. And as Ellis mentioned, I am the co-founder of Centro Out.
And I'm Christine Kim. I work out of our Chicago headquarters office, and I have been at Centro for about 6.5 years now. And I currently work on the Media Innovations and Technology team as the Director of Client Learning, where I head up all of our Centro certified programs. I currently live with my cousin, as well as a friend that he has invited to live with us due to just some circumstances. And I also live with 2 clownfish, since we're talking about pets and plants. I lead Nom Nom community group, as well as Reframe with Cody Carroll, which is focused on mental wellness and health. And if you have not already done it, I highly recommend you download the Headspace app. That is a part that Centro offers. And then I'm just gonna actually show you where my favorite meditation is. If you go right into the app, see where it says today's Headspace. If you click into that, it's a different meditation every day. It's actually the one I like to do just because there's a lot of choices that we need to make right now and a lot going on in our brains. And the meditation I want to do is actually the last thing I want to really think about. So I like that that one's there for me every day. And then I can choose it, you know, to be 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever I'm feeling. So make sure to download it. The meditation march is still happening. So if you do that and do a meditation, please send a screenshot to reframe@centro.net and we will enter you into a raffle to be pulled on Monday.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Great. So like I mentioned, the conversation today doesn't have too much of an outcome of curriculum. It's really just a conversation. And, you know, we've prepared some questions, but feel free, all of you, to just be flexible in discussing. So the first question is starting at kind of a macro level. You know, everyone's trying to keep up with the news in their own way. So just would love to hear from each of you. How are you approaching this from the world view? When do you check the news? How often are you checking the news? What outlets do you prefer? And just, you know, general feelings as a check-in as we begin this conversation of where your state of mind is relative to the large world thing that's going on. So I'm going to throw that to Katie first to help answer.
Admittedly, my state of mind changes a lot, somewhere oscillating between fear and hope. I try to watch the news every morning and every evening, and then try to tune in for some of the press briefings that we have, both from kind of the federal government and the local government here in Chicago. So I try to kind of manage my energy around it as well. At one point, Ryan actually sent me a link where you could track kind of the spread of the disease across the globe. And just to kind of refresh it all the time, and was finding refreshing it too much was just a lot to process. So I'm trying to give myself like the space and the time to do that when it works for me. So I try not doing it midday, so I'm not like distracted or anything like that. But yeah, it's interesting to me to see how much like my mindset has changed around it. Even a few weeks ago, I was like, oh, like I can still like socialize, like as long as I'm being careful. And now I'm very much in the other camp, almost judgmentally, of people who aren't doing this. So I'm working through that too, of just trying to make sure that I'm protecting myself and protecting others. I live in a building where there are a lot of, you know, elderly. And so I want to make sure that I'm not putting them in a compromising position too, because we share elevators and laundry rooms and things like that. So I'm trying to be extra careful. So it changes a lot, but I also have had hope seeing how people have banded together and are supporting local restaurants and supporting local shelters. So that's been really amazing as well.
Yeah, tons of ranges of emotions there for sure. Carolyn, what about you? When do you check in with the news?
So I've had to pivot on this. When it first started, I was initially Googling Corona like 20 times a day. I was checking on Facebook to get everyone's opinion. And really it was just giving me a ton of anxiety because I was just seeing the worst case scenarios and just watching them play out for my own life. So I have 2 kids and we own a house and we have cars. And so economically, like a lot of the uncertainty was giving me a lot of angst, like going to places like, what if we're homeless? What will my kids eat? What if we don't have toilet paper? Like really like crazy places to go. The health of my parents, like my mom would say she went out and I was like, oh my God, she got coronavirus. There's no ventilators. Like this is a disaster. So for my own sanity, I pretty much put myself in check where I get the New York Times daily email every day. So I check that when I wake up in the morning. They have a podcast as well, so I listen to that. And I've tried to limit myself to Facebook like 1 or 2 times a day for 5 minutes, and absolutely never allowed to check the news or the Facebook before I go to bed at night.
Great, thanks. I'm going to have everyone answer this one just to center us on how your habits have been forming around that. So Ryan, do you want to go next?
Sure thing. So I would say that I probably differ from some people that I'm kind of a news junkie now. I would say the things that I look at most are like CNN, New York Times, NPR, like local stations. My mom and I, she's like 73, and we like talk every morning, and so we just talk about like what's new, you know, what she's heard, what I've heard, so everyone kind of stays up to date. And then I'm like checking Facebook every so often to see what people have posted and whatnot. For me though, like my mood isn't really that impacted by the news. Like I don't really feel different or sad or anxious. So like it's okay for me to do that. But if I did have like, you know, underlying anxiety, like it would probably be a lot. But I do check it all the time. Like if you send me an article 9 times out of 10, I probably read it just because I'm like all about it right now. But that's me. That's how I get through it. And that's how I'm like preparing. And, you know, I find some like calm in the storm.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily trigger you when you, or like drag you down when you read that. Got it. Helps keep you informed. Christine, what about you?
I would say I'm the opposite, where it triggers me a lot. And I know that, and I still check it all day, every day. It's the first thing I look at when I wake up. I'm looking at it throughout the day. I'm chatting about it with my friends throughout the day, and then I'm looking at it again before I go to bed and at night. But for me, I know that it's not good for me because I end up spiraling. Anytime I see an article about people losing their jobs, people getting laid off, I go down this rabbit hole of, oh no, what if that's me? I need to figure out, you know, because part of my role is, well, my role is in-person events, and now I'm trying to figure out how to make that virtual. And, you know, that's really scary because it's the first time I'm ever having to do that. You know, I don't know how the clients are going to react to it. So, I mean, my mood probably changes day to day. Today has been a little bit rough because I just found out last night that my mom lost her job. My dad works in a restaurant, and they're divorced, and they both live alone. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety that comes with that. And I think a lot of it is also just, if they were to get sick, how do I get to that, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be alone. So today, that's kind of where my head's at. That's certainly not the case every day. But today's been a little bit more rough than usual, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting to, you know, move over the line to personally affecting you too. I think there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of people, I would say myself included, where I don't have a personal story right now. I'm sure I will very soon, about someone who's been directly affected because of it. And so that's a very different, I'm sure, shift for you just in today. So I'm sorry to hear that about your mom.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so going along the lines of that, you know, Christine brought up some great points about work changing too, right? I think it's interesting. It's like, you know, a year of strategic plan has to be executed on in 3 days because now we're virtual. And so we're doing virtual learnings, right? Like that would have been maybe months of planning for your clients. So just every day, I know for me personally, every day kind of feels like a month. But talking through that a little bit on the struggle side, you know, what are those struggles that you see that you've been facing in the new normal, whether it's because of your living situation or because of the way work's changing or because of, you know, relationships or whatever it is. And where do you find that discomfort has showed up the most just in the last, you know, week and a half? And I'll probably start here with Carolyn, since you have the 2 little ones running around with you. Where have those challenges shown up the most for you?
Yeah, the last 2 weeks have been extremely challenging as a working mom. I'm trying to be a really great employee, and I'm trying to be a really great mom. And at the end of the day, I feel like I have never done enough for both pieces of that. I feel guilty with my kids. I feel guilty about work. My husband and I have been taking shifts throughout the day to give each of us chunks of time where we can really focus on work. And that's been great because it has allowed me to keep up. But the other side of that is that when I come back to my computer, there are so many emails that I've missed, and I'm trying to always play catch up. And then I start to feel overwhelmed, like I'm not doing as much as other people, or I'm not keeping up. And it just kind of starts to spiral. You know, there's the other pressure of like, even when I'm in my like work shift and I'm working, one of the kids falls and, you know, they want mom. So they're like standing at the door screaming, or I've had conference calls where they're sitting on me and they're like hitting me with stuff. Thankfully, everyone has been super kind and understanding about that piece of it, but it's definitely hard to kind of manage that because it's new. And, you know, the kids are going through a lot. I know Centro is going through a lot. So it's just been a real struggle to kind of navigate this and kind of, you know, work with with our fellow colleagues and then also externally with clients. I think the other piece of this is that all of this doesn't really feel like there's any time for me in a day because I'm worrying a lot about work and I'm worrying a lot about my kids. And so I've been trying to make like small amounts of time where I can do something for myself, like 20 minutes. I have a Peloton. So if I can do that in the morning before the day starts, or, you know, there's days that just doesn't happen. So I try and get out with my kids to take a walk because the fresh air really has made me feel a lot better. I've tried to be better about meditating, but I'm gonna lie if I say that I'm like really good about it. But most times at night, I'll remember when I'm lying in bed and I'm like, oh man, but Headspace does have like 5-minute meditations at bedtime.
They have 1 minute.
Oh, that's good to know.
Plug.
And also just connecting with my coworkers. On the East Coast, we've been doing virtual happy hours. And those are the people I see the most really in my normal days. So just trying to connect with people as much as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a meme the other day that basically said, well, actually, it's not relevant, but it was for all the people who are working out a ton right now with all the free time. And I have 2 little ones just for those who are on the discussion. And I have an elliptical here in the background, and most conversations that I get on, people are like,
I have my Peloton.
an elliptical right there. I was like, yeah, it has a lot of dust on it. So. There was a question in the chat. So while I'm on, Carolyn, let's get that question out there. Someone asked, you know, what are you doing for childcare? Like, are you taking it on, taking all that on? Are you welcoming visitors? How are you balancing that?
Yeah, this has been really hard. And obviously my kids are both in daycare, so that's closed. So we have them at home. We've chosen to allow an 8th grader who's my neighbor to come over. She comes over every day from 3 to 5 to help so that we can both work during that time. That's pretty controversial because some people are like, I can't believe you're letting somebody into your house. Really, the 2 of us are taking chunks. So my husband does 9 to 11, then I work 11 to 1, then we both kind of piece 1 to 3 together while my youngest naps and my older one kind of calms down. And then from 3 to 5, we have this, she's an 8th grader, so a mother's helper come over. And that is working for us, but I know a lot of people are concerned about bringing people in, so.
Yeah, no, that's one way to do it. I'll give my personal anecdote there, and then I'll move on to the next panelist. But for me, I have an interesting dynamic in my house because we are incredibly blessed to have 2 sets of grandparents which are close by who want to help. And we actually found ourselves saying no to them, which for one of them, my mother-in-law, made her actually quite sad. So it's really, that was an interesting situation, and we're still trying to decide if we, you know, if quarantine is enough, like if 2 weeks is enough, or if we, you know, keep it going. So that's a dilemma I'm sitting in. So if anyone has advice or scientific evidence that I won't get them sick, that'd be great. All right, so moving on. Christine, I'm gonna punt it to you with your cousin and the friend who's now living with you. What have been some struggles, whether in the living situation or otherwise, that you've come to face in this new normal?
Yeah, the first week I was really struggling with finding a place to put my laptop that I'm comfortable working at. Just because I don't have a desk in my room. We don't necessarily have an office area here. There isn't a lot of space already. It's a two bathroom condo. So, and in Chicago, so it's not like there's, space everywhere. But what really helped was actually Jeff Podaraki on the customer success team. This was before we were on lockdown. He offered to bring the second screen to anybody who wanted it. So I'm up on the offer, and that actually helped so much because I found a little corner to kind of corner myself in, and that is what you see here, where you can't see too much of the mess. But yeah, there's been challenges. Like yesterday we had our hot water thing broke, and we had the hot water people here. And clearly, I don't know what to call them. It's hot water people. They are, but it was like two people that, were in the house, and I'm like, I don't know you. Where have you been? And my mind was going, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to wipe down everything that they've touched. And because
yeah, it's weird feeling.
Yeah, it was weird. So I had to go work in my room. So I found myself just working on my bed, but it was very uncomfortable and my back hurt a lot. So that's probably honestly been one of my biggest struggles, is figuring that out. And then I guess it's pretty common now for people to have interruptions. So while I don't have interruptions with kids, I definitely have sometimes my cousin, he's in the kitchen, or he doesn't realize I'm on a call and he starts talking to me. So I kind of actually set a boundary with him yesterday. I said from 9 to 5, just assume that I'm not here. I'm like, unless it's an emergency, just don't talk to me. I might be on a call now. So, but yeah, the space thing was really new. But once I figured that out, I felt like a lot better about that.
Great, got set up. And Katie, how has it been being, alone in your condo or apartment for this amount of time?
Yeah. Well, one, it's just, I'm so used to seeing different people, and like even when I'm in the office, I feel like I'm constantly on the go and meeting with different people. So it's definitely been a little lonely. So I've been trying just to move around and work in different spaces just so that I can feel like I'm experiencing different things. I still see people, like I have been going for runs. So I see people like outside by myself, not with other people, but I still physically see people. I live in a building with other people. So like I've seen neighbors, like talk to door people. So I've gotten some interaction. But I've just been relying a lot on technology, which has been great. My best friend from high school and I have been talking like every day, which we haven't done since probably high school. It's been nice to really be able to reconnect with people, just because it's a weird time for everyone. But yeah, it's different. Especially I am an extrovert, and I am an introverted extrovert where I like alone time, but too much alone time is not the best either. So. But figuring it out.
Great. And Ryan, I know that you've been working from home for a while, or working remotely for a while, but now you have your husband in on that space. What have been some of the main struggles or newness for you in the situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, my husband is in spine surgery. So for those that don't know, like elective spine surgery has actually been canceled for the foreseeable future. So until he's actually like being asked to come back to the hospital for emergency purposes, like he's literally just kind of hanging at home and doing whatever. So I've been used to working from home, like working remotely. I kind of have my groove, my schedule, but then all of a sudden he'll be like watching a movie shirtless over there. And I'm just like, hey, like 80 million things to do. Could we not do that? I think we've kind of worked on, like, hey, from 9 to 5 kind of with Christine, like you need to kind of like schedule your time, schedule your, reading time or whatever it is that you have to do. And then I'll do what I have to do. And then at 5, like we will eventually like be able to watch TV, like do all that stuff. Like I said, I already have my schedule kind of set up with working from home. But it has been a lot different, and I'm not gonna lie, like challenging being another person here, just because, I don't like someone listening to me all the time, but it is what it is. So I just kind of have to embrace it. And I this whole thing has taught me, my motto for coronavirus is like, accept and rejoice. Like, it's all I can do right now.
That's a good one. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. And I know, with your husband being in the healthcare field and, not many people at Centro having that, I know I don't have a personal connection or that close with anyone who directly works in the healthcare field, and, realizing he's an elective surgery, but how has that been just with, that atmosphere and newness for him and his peers? If you don't mind him coming into the conversation.
No, he actually left for the day, so he's gone.
With a shirt.
So I would say that I'm kind of brought into some of those conversations with his colleagues as well, and they're pretty scared just at like the volume that this is having in the medical field. All the elective cases are canceled, but then like, where does that go from here? Like, how long are they canceled for? So a lot of our friends live in New York City, and a lot of their hospitals are kind of to the max. Has thought about, should I fly out there to help? Like, there's a lot of medical people that are actually coming out of retirement that are, I mean, we have like orthopedic surgeons that have no idea how to work a ventilator, but they're just going to hospitals to help out in any way that they can. So I think it's a really like an all hands on deck mentality when it comes to that realm. And so it's scary, but it's also good that we're building a community of people that are so caring.
Yeah, absolutely. Similarly, because that was one of my, one thing I was thinking through is, all of you kind of have used examples of it, but really where some of the positives have popped out during this, which have been surprising sometimes on, seeing, for me, just seeing how much more connected I actually am now with some people I haven't talked to in 6 months, because I know they're all sitting on the couch, and one, they can't ignore my call, and two, virtual is in now. So I find that I'm having more happy hours with my family, or friends than ever before, especially with kids, because they don't have to come to the bar. But where have you all found some of those positives, sunshine through the new struggles? I'll go with Ryan, because you were going down that road.
I was just gonna say, I completely agree. I think I've FaceTimed and Zoomed and G-chatted with like so many people in the past like 3 weeks, and I have in like years. And a lot of my like good friends from college, from Chicago, I just like, hey, let's have a virtual brunch and like let's just eat and drink mimosas while we hang out together. Things like that have been really fun. And I've talked with my in-laws. My mom is 73, so I have to like walk her through the technology, but I eventually do see her, so which is fun. But I mean, I've been able to build more of like a camaraderie, because knowing that like I'm not the only person like that's going through this is for me very, very helpful. I think there's solidarity, and a lot of people are wanting to hang out, wanting to socialize, be with each other. So I've been like FaceTiming all of the time. So it's been working out really well for me.
Great. Carolyn, where have you found some of those rainbows?
Yeah, I certainly think that this all brought a sense of community to everybody. And specifically, I'll tell a little bit of an embarrassing story about where Teams has really helped. But on Tuesday, we had a prep call for this, and 10 minutes before we got on the call, I just had 9 days of just like working mom pressure and being home in the house just kind of come flooding out all at once. And I just had like a mental breakdown where I was just like crying and just letting it out. And we had this call, and everyone had their screens on. So I'm like, I'm going to pull it together and I'm going to have my screen on. So I pulled it together and I got on, and someone was like, how are you? And I was like, fine. And I was just like coming down my face that I couldn't stop. And so, if I had been on the phone, I would have been like, fine, you, and nobody ever would have known that I was at the time. Certainly didn't want to awkwardly be crying in front of people that I don't. talk to all the time, but what was great was that we all addressed it. We talked about this, you know, it's all about like what this conversation is about. It lasted 2 minutes and then we moved on and talked about other things. And by the end of the conversation, I felt so much better and I felt totally fine to continue on with my day. And it was just a good way of showing what opening up can do. And kind of even beyond that, that night I got the sweetest email from Christine, who's on the panel, just checking on me and seeing how I was doing and if I was okay and if I wanted to chat. And it was just a reminder here that everyone here at Centro cares deeply for each other, and that being vulnerable is really awkward and embarrassing, but can really be a good thing. And, you know, we're kind of being forced to be in that position now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I've been getting sent an article, actually Harvard Business Review. For those of you who know me know that that's my main source of reading, about how, you know, some of the, it's been difficult to articulate how we're feeling, and a lot of it can be boiled down to grief or sadness for loss of things, you know, loss of normalcy, like loss of my commute time. Well, I don't know why that would be a loss, but, you know, loss of the vacation you were going to take, loss of knowing what's going to happen with the world or with the economy. And I think that sadness, I know for me personally, was helpful to say like, oh, this is what I'm feeling. It's sadness for loss. And some of those things, you know, I'm someone who typically puts on quite, you know, a pretty brave face. And some of those things, when you say like, oh, I'm, you know, sad because I can't, you know, go on my vacation, like you don't want to say that out loud all the time because it seems very, you know, first world problem when there's a lot of problems going on. But, you know, I've been talking with my team too about how whether or not, you know, it's appropriate to say it or whatever it is, like you still feel it. And that's okay to feel. And there's going to be that underlying, you know, grief and things that you can't control. You know, a lot of my grief is catered towards just grief for those who are suffering. There's nothing I can do right now besides stay in my home. So I am interested to hear from you all. I know we talked a little bit about that article yesterday, but if you've reflected or thought about where grief might be showing up or where sadness might be showing up. Because I think it's a good reflection for everyone on this call to think about, you know, where that might be and just being okay with feeling it and, you know, finding ways to find the positives above it. But Christine, I don't know if you want to take that one. I know I said I'd call on people.
Yeah. So I think my grief comes in a lot of different forms and waves. I think so coming from a family that has had small businesses and restaurants kind of all my life, when I think about all the people who are losing their businesses, can't open businesses, when I think about the years and years of work that they have put into that it's their dreams, that in a lot of cases that they've, you know, left their countries to come here to pursue the American dream, and then something happens that's, you know, totally out of their control, just wiping them out. That's when I will usually lose it, when I really go down the rabbit hole of thinking about that, because I'm also just the type of person that's always thinking 10 steps ahead. So something like this is, you know, nobody could have really known that it was going to be what it is and, you know, what the future of it is going to look like. So when I think about that really kind of, I get really overwhelmed with sadness and grief. And then on a more selfish level, I'm already like very much an introvert. So the social isolation part I have found doesn't really bother me. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, another day, just me and my cousin, and maybe FaceTiming some friends. I have actually found that I've been talking to my friends more than I ever have, and my family. So it's actually a little overwhelming for me to have so many people checking in. But I miss little things. Like I'm an avid class passer. I love workout classes. It's actually one of the few areas where I think I get my energy in a social setting. So I've been really missing that. When I think about travel, it makes me really sad because travel is something I very intentionally put into my schedule and year. And I had a trip planned for this summer that's probably not going to happen. And I'm sad about it. And I think that it's a challenge to think through, what things do I need to do now to give me that same sense of joy that travel used to be, and knowing it might not be back for a while. So those are kind of, I think, where the main areas of grief and sadness are showing up for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Katie, I see you're nodding your head. Do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah, just a lot of what Christine said resonates with me. I think I'm feeling a lot of grief just seeing the state, both like watching like the death tolls climb is just scary for me. And just seeing like the US numbers continue to climb, and knowing like shortages and things like that. But then for me, and I've said this to you a few calls, I'm feeling a lot of like anger and judgment. I just am continuing to see people who aren't taking it seriously, and it's really making me like question people who I've like respected or who I would consider friends, just because I'm experiencing friends who are, taking pay cuts, losing their jobs. My mom works in retail, so like she doesn't know what's going to happen there. And it just, for me, it's recognizing the impact that it's having on more than just like yourself. And then people still choosing, well, like I'm bored or I'm lonely, so like I'm going to hang out with people is a thing that I'm having to reconcile. But then it's like, I had a call with Ellis before this earlier, and I was complaining about the lakefront being shut down because that's where I found a lot of solace and being able to go run. And so for me, it's like, I also then feel guilty if I'm getting sad over something as trivial as that when people are, losing loved ones. And so that's just something I'm trying to grapple with as well.
Yeah, it's good to reflect on it though, so you can kind of identify that feeling, right? I'll go Carolyn and then move on because I want to make sure we have time for a couple more things.
Yeah. I would say in that the article that Alice is talking about in the Harvard Business Review, they talk about this idea of anticipatory grief. So anticipating something bad coming up, so it's creating anxiety. And I think for me, that's what really happens. I'm thinking about all the people who can get sick and all the worst, cases, the worst case scenarios for, my own family and what that means. I went to Stop and Shop yesterday because we hadn't been grocery shopping in 2 weeks, and I bought $300 of groceries and then sat outside and individually Lysoled every single container, which sounds psychotic. And I took off my clothes and put them in the washing machine. So like, certainly I have to remind myself, like, I'm not living the worst case scenario right now, like, and be mindful of what I can and can't control.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely part of working through all of this, is that there is, at the highest point, very little control. All the, again, I'm referencing memes. They are just really memes right now on social media, and so many are on point, but a lot of them talk about, literally all you have to do is sit on your couch, and it's like, what? I'm a planner, I want to help. I want to do this or that. So that's an interesting loss of control that I know I've personally been dealing with. So I want to get some of just your, I've kind of 2 more things on my mind. I want to talk through specific tips. So how you've been moving through the new normal. As we've talked about, most of you have kind of found your rhythm in the sense of where you work or how you work. So like some of those tips I want to get out just for the audience, so that Centrons can hear how you're working in the new norm, and then we'll talk about kind of where we go from there, and take questions as well at the end. So Ryan, do you want to share how some of your best practices, especially since you've been working remotely, the longest of the group?
Yeah, for sure. So I was actually featured on Centro Stories this week, which was fun. But like I said, I've been working a while remotely, and I think the biggest thing for me was after doing it for a month, I was like, wow, like I felt lonely, I felt isolated, and this was me, like this is back in July of 2019. So I had to figure out like what I could do differently to make myself feel better. So really, what I started doing was I did, you know, as everyone says, like, you know, plan a routine, go running in the morning or do something in the morning. So I would get up early, like have my coffee, do my thing, and then, you know, start work at like 9. But I tried to like balance, you know, I would usually wake up and, you know, shower and then go into the office, you know, whatever. But I would actually try to disengage myself in the mornings from my work email, just because I think it's important to like have those boundaries when you're working from home. Just because everything is so all over the place. Like I said, I eat away from my desk for lunch. I, you know, purposely eat away, and I kind of try to do something different. I check in with our team very often. I think that, you know, working from home, it can be very isolating and be kind of like depressing. And so if you don't check in with your team often or have like a lot of video chats, like it sucks. So like I try to do that as much as I can, and my team's awesome, and so I always check in with them. I go for, so I don't know about everyone else, but like around like 2:30 or 3, I hit a wall. I'm like tired and I don't know why. So I know that those times I usually go for a walk, or I do something, or I do like jumping jacks or whatever it is. There's a Peloton group, there's a Centro Peloton group, so I'll try to do that as well. But yeah, I mean, like I feel like it's okay to be, just be nice to yourself, because like there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and so don't be so hard on yourself if you're not doing everything perfectly, because no one is.
Here, here.
Mhm.
Carolyn, I'm going to call on you next because there was also a question, so I'm going to join them together. The question was, parents tend to try to squeeze everything in at night, and how do you balance wanting to get things done at night, but realizing that you need to sleep also? So if you can work that into your habits. That'd be great.
I don't think I figured that out. Okay, so I will try and address both of those. I would say, as a working parent, if there's 2 people who are working, or, you know, even if it's just, you know, I'm sure for the people who have partners who stayed at home, it's just a lot now for them to also be stuck at home with kids. So if you can split schedules, that's been really great, because it has allowed me to have, and my husband, to both have that time where like we don't need to worry like if somebody is going to be doing something they're not supposed to be doing. So I would say if you can look at your days and just split up the schedules, that's been really helpful. Something that I found helpful too is, because I'm kind of coming in and out a lot, is to create a list of things to do in the last 10 minutes before I sign off for a period of time or the day, because that just makes it so that when I come back to my desk, I don't need to start just aimlessly kind of going through emails and trying to figure out where my focus needs to be. I think, you know, when I had like the normal work day and I got into the office at 9, I was able to kind of ease into the day and check emails, and like that just isn't possible now. So I like to create that to-do list so I know what I'm doing. I would say be kind to yourself, because, you know, I have to be reminded all the time, this is unprecedented. Everyone's going through it. I think at this point, I feel like I apologize on conference calls and people are like, stop, you don't need to do that. So just being kind, getting outside. I would also say connecting as you can. So in the beginning, I was trying to connect with like friends I hadn't talked to for so long on Zoom, and like do all these things because it seems like that's what we're supposed to do. But honestly, like I kind of want to trade places with somebody who doesn't have a house full of people right now. Like, Katie, maybe we could split.
We could switch.
I could just use like a little more quiet in my life. So like knowing that I don't need to have calls at night, I just need silence. I would say, how do I manage the balance of wanting to get things done at night but realizing you need sleep? truthfully, like I have one night where I'm so great and I go to bed, like, you know, I'm in bed at 9, my kids are up by 6 every day. So that's like a lot, you know, that's the sleep I'm working with. And then the next day I'm like up reading a book until like 12:30 and I just sabotaged myself. So I try and just say like, you know, my house isn't going to be super clean through this. I'm going to make it as clean as I can to like stay sane, but stuff isn't going to get done, but it's okay. And if I can also try like when I have the kids, if I can try and like clean things up quickly at the same time, I do that. But I don't think I have that balance totally worked out. So hit me up if you do.
The way that I get my show time, my Netflix time at night is I just have more laundry than I've ever had, and I'm at home all day. So that's not well. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left. I want to get to my last question, which is around what do we hope for? What do we look towards? I did an exercise with some of the talent and development leadership team recently with Daphne, who, for those of you who don't know her, she is our consultant for conscious leadership trainings at the company, and as well as Lola, right, who some of you might know now from the book club. But anyway, point is, she had us go through an exercise where we focused on our vision for the next 30 days. Like if this all ends in 30 days, you know, God willing, and it can be longer, that's okay, but just for this exercise, the next 30 days, like, what is your vision? I know for me personally, it was really helpful to just say like, okay, if I do anything during this time, you know, if I come out of this, what would I be happy with? So for my personal side, I said, if I create great memories with my kids, when we have more time together we will ever have in our lives of 2 working parents, that would be a win. And professionally, you know, if Centrons feel supported, that would be a win for me. So I'm going to try to have 2 of you do it, because I do want to get to some of the questions. So Christine and Ryan, since you didn't, I don't think, answered the last question. Christine, did you get a chance to think about the 30-day look ahead? And if we have time, I'll have all of you, because I love this question.
Yeah, I think, so professionally, I would love to come out of the 30 days feeling like I was creative and agile, and I worked with what I had to make something that I didn't know what was going to happen into its own version of success, and that clients are still able to feel like Centro is here for them, even if it is in a virtual setting, and that clients still feel like we are giving them value and that we are showing off our brand and our culture to them in a cultural or in a virtual environment. And personally, if I just come out of it as a calm person, that would be a success. I think I just want to make sure that some of the anxiety that I'm feeling, you know, during this time is not going to be an ongoing thing, because I think that will be very overwhelming for me.
Yeah, great. Ryan, what were your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, we were saying earlier, like I've been eating everything, so I really want to be able to fit into all my pants. That would be ideal.
Huge win. That would be a huge win.
Right, huge win. But I would say that, you know, personally, I really want to like work on like side projects that just like give me joy. Like I really enjoy, you know, painting. I haven't painted in like God knows how long. Like some of these things that I like doing that I could just start doing. And obviously like helping, you know, build my community. So like talking to more people, chatting, you know, I've been like texting more people than I have ever. Just to like say, hey, how are you? What's going on? You know, we have a friend in Minneapolis. She lives by herself, so I try to check in with her like daily just to make sure she's doing well. So just keep that going on. And then I would say it kind of leads over too. Like I want our team, you know, all of Centro to know that like, you know, I'm there to talk. You need anything, I'm there. Like whatever's available. So I think that all of the companies, every company's trying to navigate through this, and no one's doing it perfectly again, but we're trying to really, you know, let everyone know that we care and we're out there. So I would say like letting Centrons know that like I'm checking in, that I'm here. If you need to talk, that would be a win for me.
Great. Katie, you didn't answer the last question. I was wrong about that. So go ahead.
There's so many things. For me, I'm taking it as a reset. Like I am not someone who typically slows down. So one thing I'm trying to do is just build better habits. Like something as simple as like if I put on a shirt that I decide I don't want to wear, like hanging it up like right away. So like little things like that, just to kind of recreate some of those good habits that I need. And just like letting myself be creative. As Ryan kind of mentioned, I bought some canvases off of Amazon, so I'm going to try to paint a little bit. We'll see how those turn out. Professionally, similar to Ryan and similar to what you said, Ellis, you know, we live in an uncertain time right now. There's just a lot that's always changing, new information's coming in. So I want to support the employees that I work with and the managers that I work with to help just kind of navigate these times and exit this 30 days or whatever the future state looks like, just feeling like more empowered and like we're better leaders and better Centrons.
Great. And Carolyn?
I think mine kind of cross each other because this feels like such a cross between my two lives right now. That if I can say that I came out of this and I was 100% present without judgment in the two things that I've really been trying to navigate, I'll be happy about that. And, you know, just giving myself grace, being supportive to other Centrons around me, I'll take that as a win.
Absolutely, I'd say so. Great. Okay, so taking a look at the questions with our 4 minutes left. Anthony, I will find the meme for you and send it to you. I'm always bad at quoting things when I have them in my brain. Another question was, and I actually don't know if any of you are doing this right now, if you are dealing with financial uncertainty with people in your life, whether that's their jobs or their income, and if you've had to help out. Does anyone want to take that? I don't know if that personally has been.
So I feel like that's something that will probably happen with me, just because historically I've had to help my mom out in times. So I can only imagine that this will be in tougher times. So my brother and I have already had discussions on how to work with that. So some of the things we've talked about is me taking on her cell phone bill. I know that she has like a small credit card. I offered to pay that off for her just so she doesn't have to worry about it anymore. Little things. I think that's also a really big thing that I think about is just, even if this didn't happen, how my brother and I were going to probably end up taking care of her regardless. I think this just kind of fast tracked it a bit, and it is very stressful to think about because there was, I think I had an idea in my head that when that happened, like one of us, my brother and I, would be married with kids and she can move in with one of us and help us with the kids. Neither one of us are at that stage, so I'm not really sure how we're going to navigate that, but those are kind of the initial conversations that we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. That is quite a weight to carry, for sure. Yeah, and do you have any specific, and if you don't, it's fine, I'll probably make a plug for Centro ones anyway, but do you have specific resources that you go to or support tools for that? Is it just your network, like your network?
Yeah, it's more of talking through it with my family, but yeah, I actually don't know. So if there are resources, that'd be great.
You bet. Okay, yeah, we have 2 minutes left. So for Christine, I think an interesting thing, and I surprise myself all the time with it, is we always push out our employee assistance program, and there is, for some reason, like I don't know what the word is. I think people think of it as something that's really, really serious. Like you only need to use it if there's something really, really serious, but there's a ton of resources on our employee assistance program, including free counseling for financials, free sessions of mental health counseling too. Like there's a lot in the employee assistance program. So that was in Emily Barron's last email. It's all over the internet. Ping me, I'll send it to you. So I encourage that. From a connectivity perspective and a virtual perspective, Jess reminded me I forgot to make the plug for Icebreakers. You've seen me stalk your emails with it, but make sure that you're connecting with other Centrons. I think in general, I always love how open Centrons are to talking to each other if there are questions from anyone in Centro. And this is just another way that we can support each other by just randomly talking to people and getting to know other people and hearing other stories And like we started with in the beginning, a lot of the success that we are going to come out of has to do with the amount of empathy we have for each other during this time. There are tons of different life scenarios that are not just on these five boxes on the window. And really understanding, paying attention to, and listening to your coworkers and what they're dealing with and the world around you, I think is hopefully something that everyone can recognize and reflect on coming out of this. And setting that 30-day goal, even if it extends, I think it's a helpful exercise to really focus on what's important while you manage the minutia of this new day-to-day. So I'm assuming everyone is clapping like incredibly loud for the panelists. So I will add to that. Thank you so much for your time, for your prep and taking the time. And if anyone has questions or if any come in after this, we'll try to send that back. And I also promised to make Katie send you all a picture of her painting. So thank you so much and have a great day, Centro.
Bye.
Bye.